Welcome to Star Wars Armada Explained. I'm Karnak, and today we're going to look at the Weapons Team card, Fire Control Team. And this card equips to a Weapons Team slot. How can you tell? You look at the bottom left-hand corner of the card, and you can see the icon symbol there for Weapons Team. So Fire Control Team reads, during the Resolve damage step, you may exhaust this card to resolve one additional critical effect. You cannot resolve the same critical effect twice. This card does have some clarifications, which reads as follows. If a ship with this card equipped resolves both the XX9 Turbo Laser's critical effect and the standard critical effect, only the first two damage cards are dealt face up. If a ship with this card equipped resolves both the Assault Proton Torpedo's critical effect and the standard critical effect, only the damage card dealt by resolving Assault Proton Torpedoes is dealt face up. So let's go over some of that. So what does that all mean? So let's talk about the Assault Proton Torpedo critical effect and the standard critical effect. Part of the reason for this is not wanting essentially the Assault Proton Torpedo, like for example, if a Gladiator came in, rolled his critical effect, activated Assault Proton Torpedoes at the appropriate timing, and then he activated Fire Control Team to now say, hey, I want to resolve a standard critical effect. For whatever reason, FFG has said, he can only resolve the Assault Proton Torpedo. And I think the reasoning that they went with that is because when you deal a damage card, you can only deal the first card face up unless you have, for example, XX9 turbo lasers equipped. So I think that's kind of the reasoning why they went with that. Regardless, that's their ruling, that you can't do an Assault Proton Torpedo critical effect followed up by a standard critical effect. You can only do essentially just one of those. Now, XX9 turbo laser critical effect, which is XX9 Turbo Laser is a Turbo Laser slot card where if you deal any damage to the ship's hull, you can deal the first two damage cards face up rather than the first one, as long as, of course, you're showing a critical icon. So they've made it to where only if you choose to do the XX9 Turbo Laser critical effect and then say, oh, I also want to do a standard critical effect, well, again, you can't combo it to get three face up damage cards. You can only do two, like with Turbo Laser says. Also, another interesting aspect that's not mentioned in here, but by the same token, um, excuse me, the Assault Proton Torpedo, if you were to use Assault Proton Torpedo and XX9 Turbo Laser slot, again, the first face-up damage card is dealt by Assault Proton Torpedo, meaning you can only deal one more face-up damage card if you got more damage in to the hull. Again, you can only resolve a second face-up card as well. So that's definitely some interesting dynamics there between Fire Control Team and XX9s and Assault Proton Torpedoes. It may seem a little convoluted, but for the most part, just know that you can't just like chain combo face up after face up after face up. FFG felt that card that those cards needed to be defined in that manner. So let's go to some other combinations, or rather, how this card effect works. So we're going to say, for example, this Imperial class Star Destroyer is a Kuat version, which is able to take the Weapons Team slot Fire Control Team and also an Ordnance slot. We're going to go ahead and flip this card over and say he's got Assault Concussion Missiles. So what is the actual timing of this card? A lot of people make this mistake. I've made this mistake. I'll roll my attack pool like I'll do here. We'll say I roll the 3 reds, the 2 blues, and the 3 blacks out the front. And we'll say that this blank was a crit. And I have another critical icon there you see on the red. And I go, oh man, I can use my Fire Control Team and I'm going to exhaust this, exhaust that, and do all that. You don't declare the use of this card while you're attacking with dice. You don't exhaust this card while you are attacking. That may seem counterintuitive because obviously if your opponent looks at it, your opponent's going to assume that you're doing it, but there's a reason for this. So after you have rolled all of your die, re-rolled anything, added any dice, etc., as soon as you're done saying, I'm done messing with my dice, your opponent then spends his defense tokens. And in that spending of defense tokens, potentially he may cancel one or the other or both of these critical effects. So if he has canceled both of these effects, you can't activate Fire Control Team, because remember, this is during the resolve damage step that you activate this card. So you can't exhaust it before you've reached that step. In this situation, we're going to say you've made it all the way. You're done with the spend defense token step. You're now in the resolve damage step. Now you can say, I'm choosing to activate my black critical for my assault concussion missiles, because you have a black critical showing. So you're saying that you're going to use that, and then you say, now I'm exhausting Fire Control Team to activate another critical effect on my red die here for a standard, if I'm able to get through the shields and actually do damage into hull, a standard face-up damage card. Because assault concussion missiles, what do? Well, only the adjacent hull zones take an additional damage. You can still, potentially plow through damage and get a face-up, and then you can still deal a face-up damage card. What are some other unique aspects that you can do with these cards as well? Like, for example, again, if you have a Kuat version, you've got the weapons team with Fire Control Team. You've got assault concussion missiles equipped into the ordnance slot. Well, let's say you have, you have heavy ion emplacements. What is heavy ion emplacements? It is, Vassal's chugging here a little bit. It should correct itself, but I'll continue. So heavy ion emplacements is if you get a blue critical, you can exhaust this card to deal a shield damage to the defending hull zone in each adjacent hull zone. And then, where did that card go? There it is. So you can deal a shield damage to the defending hull zone and each adjacent hull zone. So again, if you had rolled this attack pool and that was showing a blue crit and you had a black crit or a red crit, you could choose. You have to get past the spend defense token step, because maybe the defender has a way to cancel these critical effects, meaning you can trigger them. And now you get to the spend to the resolve damage step. You can say, hey, I'm choosing to exhaust heavy ion emplacements. Again, you don't exhaust this card or FCT before you get to the step, because you can't resolve them. You resolve them during the resolve damage step. So you're saying, I'm going to use heavy ion placements, and you know what? I'm going to exhaust this card to now activate the black die effect for assault concussion missiles as well. And you can combo those two cards. Same thing. Let's go over to the MC-75 cruiser. Let's say this is the ordnance cruiser version. And he's got the ability to equip 2 ordnance card slots. He can equip, for example, assault proton torpedoes and assault concussion missiles. So again, if he rolls, his 3 die, and we'll say that he managed to roll 1 hit crit. Now, some people also, again, operate under the assumption that you need 2 hit crit die to activate both of these effects. You don't. You only need 1 showing. Because as long as neither of these cards say that you spend the die to activate their ability, the critical is showing. You don't need multiples. You just need the effect. So again, you get through the spend defense token step. Your opponent is not able to remove that hit crit die. You say, okay, my first critical effect that I'm going to do is assault proton torpedo, which again, you immediately deal a face-up damage card, and then you say, hey, you know what? I'm exhausting Fire Control Team, and now I'm also activating assault concussion missiles. They can both proc off of 1 black hit crit dice. So that is something that can chain. It's very powerful. Can be hard to pull off, depending on your opponent's ability to mitigate. But if you can pull it off, man, you've just set up your opponent for a world of hurt. So that's Star Wars Armada explained for Fire Control Team. If you do have any questions, or if you see anything in error or that's wrong, please be sure to comment. Let me know so I can fix it. Thanks for watching.